Hi, this is Steve Florison, and this is Unit 13 and Unit 15, two units which are clustered together for the notes and for the assessments. Here you can see the different topics, and it has two assessments, Assessment 13.1, and these are multiple choice and true-false questions, and 15.1, which is a scenario. The images are from the Esperance area, which is where we live and where we have the office. This is a multiple choice question. You can choose one, two, or even three of these as correct, and you'll have an opportunity to come back and correct them if you make an error. These are the true, false, and so you just mark one as true and one as false. Basically, this is about groups, about forming networks and how people in those networks can collaborate together, and trying to get grants for different projects. And so that's the different parts of Unit 13-15 cluster. To plan a successful group activities, there's a number of things that you must do. First of all, you must work out what is the purpose or the aim. You must make, management arrangements. You must organise a venue. You must have a time frame, that sort of thing. You're going to need very clear objectives, maybe one or two per session. These need to be measurable and achievable. And here you have your first multiple choice. It says when you decide on the purpose of a group, it's important to have 7 objectives, have very clear objectives, or dot point the objectives. And you'll see there that B is correct. So B is the correct response there. When we're working out the structure or the type of a group, we need to consider the people and their needs. Will it be formal or informal? It could be structured or it might be unstructured, but it will have some structure. And there you have the second multiple choice question. Group structure. So the group structure should suit the needs of the people in the group and the characteristics of the people in the group. And other considerations are resources, the management structure, personnel, times when the groups will meet, all the different logistics around the group, and an accountability process, accountability for finances, activities, etc., particularly if you've got a grant for this project that you're running. Human resources, these can come from within your own organisation or in your area, but outside your organisation. Accountability processes include record keeping, reports, financial procedures. It also, with record keeping, it also involves keeping data about attendance and all of those sort of things. The evaluation procedure is to ensure that the objectives are being met in your project or in your program. So resources can come from your own member or organisation, and we call these in-kind donations. They can actually be dollar type donations, or they can be in-kind. And by in-kind we mean it's something that that a member of the group gives us. So it might be like the loan of a trailer or the use of a bus, or they might provide some labour, and that would normally cost us money. So we call it an in-kind donation. These are often indicative of the commitment of people in the group. So people who've got buy-in or ownership of what's happening in your group are likely to offer these sort of donations or in-kind donations. You can get other sorts of assistance. So you might get sources of resources from government departments, philanthropic organisations, local councils, shire libraries, schools, not-for-profits, private businesses, that sort of thing. So the sort of thing I'm thinking of here is that you might have a boarding residence and you might decide that you're going to go on an excursion, an extended excursion, maybe to another state, might be to Canberra or somewhere like that, and you need funding. You've got a lot of different stakeholders to pull together. You need a network of people that you're going to work with to help this to happen for your boarding students. So resources, these can be human resources. They can be things like refreshments, equipment, technology, activity materials, venue hire, transport costs, buses, accommodation, publicity, props and costumes, fees, all of those sort of things are resources. You need to then identify links with relevant services. So when working with groups and young people, you can more effectively meet their needs if you've got access to a broad range of services offered by other parts of your organisation or by other organisations and service providers. So this could be in the normal operation of your boarding program, or it might be if you're planning something different like a special excursion, or if you're planning a special group activity, a Saturday afternoon activity or something like that. You'll need to have links with other people who can help you. To develop these links, you must identify the area where the young person or a group might need support, identify organisations and providers that can provide those services, contact them, provide information about your own organisation, and then just maintain that network of contacts. Networks involve individuals and groups working together to share information, ideas, services and resources to help meet common goals. The term networking is most often used to describe the process of making contact with others to, foster mutually beneficial and supportive relationships. So we see this happening in businesses. So consultants and people like that are quite often working together with others so that they can, foster these mutually beneficial contacts. We also see network marketing, where people market to other people. They establish a network and then they market to people within that network. But when we're looking at community services type networks, and that's the area that we fall into, then different sectors all have their own networks. For example, aged care, disability, mental health, youth, alcohol and drugs, etc., all have established networks that link the agencies and services with each other. Some networks are based on a cross-section of these organisations. So like, for instance, housing would cut across aged care, disability, mental health, etc. So there might be a network that just focuses on that. It's a common practice in the business world where you're selling a service. It's effective for business people, and it's so effective that you'll see conferences on networking, books on networking, and any number of blogs and other sort of resources. And we're talking about it for 20 minutes or half an hour here today, but you can go to a full 2-day conference to talk about networking, if that's a part of what you do in your business world. Networking can be very formal, where there are agreements and protocols. It can be like an online network such as LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a huge network of people, of professionals, most often used for getting jobs, putting yourself out there to get jobs, or attracting people to work with you. Networking can also be an informal process, just where you're handing your business cards out or at an event or a function, hoping that people will remember you and that they'll use your product or services. So there are agreed protocols for networking, such as remembering people's names, given you will get back, be genuinely interested in people, listen more than you talk, be ethical, don't complain in a conversation, and remember to follow up. Networking and boarding, or in a community services context, is a little bit different because the whole purpose of networking in business is really so that you can make more money, or that you can create more contacts or sell more product. But in a community services or boarding context, it's so that we can provide a better, more effective services for our client, who is our student, boarding student. There's lots of advantages in networking and boarding. These include avoiding duplication of services, accessing services that you can't get elsewhere, or you can't normally get access to. It's a cost-effective way of delivering services. You can share information, news, innovations, all of that sort of thing. Helps you keep up to date on issues and services that are relevant to your role. when we look at networking skills, there's different skills such as communication skills, building relationships. We call these soft skills, I guess. Joining and leaving groups, using opening lines and small talk, using open-ended questions, finding common ground, using personal disclosure. We have to be careful here, of course, that you don't cross boundaries. Creating trust, talking up your business or service, becoming a network node. Now, an organisation like Boarding Training Australia, our organisation, or ABSA or Boarding Australia, they're all networking nodes. So people would network with them and they would network with others. So it's like a networking hub. They're networking strategies and just building confidence. When you establish a network, it's really important to maintain it. So this means regularly reviewing it to make sure that the list is current, that the services are still available, make additions to the list when you need to, and just take any steps to maintain the network, such as ongoing meetings with people, with individuals, or getting information out to your network. And I guess we hope that boarding staff will look at this and they'll think, I need to have a more formal approach to establishing and maintaining my network. And so they might be people that you interact with regularly, and we're going to have a look at how Mitford does this shortly, or that you just interact with from time to time, but you should have some way of identifying and maintaining your network. So very often there's levels of support. So if we look at Mitford, which is a scenario type school, it has almost 40 different service providers, and most of these providers or services, such as churches, sports, arts, tutors, could be contacted whenever students were being taken to those events or practices. Others, such as counselling services, the hospital, mental health services, etc., can be contacted as the needs arose. And others, such as school counsellors, deputies, principals, and so on, these need a networking type approach. And so this allows for 3 levels of support contact. And so here's Mitford's network, and you can see that they've divided them into behaviour, health and well-being, development and recreation, and diversity, 4 categories. So when you do your networking structure or how you're going to identify your network, you might do it quite differently. But and of course, this is like a bare bones outline. Normally you would have a person's name in there, their contact details, their email, their phone number, all of those sort of things. And these days, of course, you might have it in a digital format so that you can easily access them and phone them or contact them. So against behaviour, within the school boarding context, Mitford have got the school counsellor, the deputy principal and the chaplain in the local community outside the boarding school. They've got the Dales Counselling Services, Relationships Australia, Marchant Counselling, School Psychology Services, Kids Helpline and Beyond Bullying. So that's their network for behaviour. Then health and well-being. They've got the residence nurse, they've got school nurse, got the local hospital. This is for outside of their school community. They've got the Department of Mental Health, Disability Services, Vic, Deaf and Scope, and so on. You can see how these work. You know, so for development and recreation, you've got art and sport people in the school. You've got teachers, I guess, who provide tutoring. Outside, you've got sport groups, art groups, music, and then you've got a tutoring group as well. When you're looking at diversity, this helps you understand the sort of young people who are at Mitford. So looking at that, they're going to have Indigenous young people, Sudanese young people. They're going to have somebody who's an Asian Protestant person, a Pacific Islander, a Assemblies of God person, and a Seventh-day Adventist person. And so they have all of those networks to those support organisations outside of their own organisation. Within their own organisation, they've got the school chaplain. So that's a network outline for somebody in a boarding school. To facilitate links with a network, you need to provide information on your own organisation, and this is generally of a general nature, where you're providing information on the facilities, student numbers, events, staffing, programs. This will nearly always, in the first instance, be your website, but then it might be brochures, and it might also be other information sheets, such as programs and data about, numbers and all of that sort of thing. Need to make sure that our information is current and correct. So we've got a version control on it so that anybody looking at the material can see they've got the latest version. When we're representing our organisation to other people, we need to make sure that we're positive, don't detail negative issues or incidents, don't overpromise or exaggerate, and always be very clear and factual about your organisation to give a clear, correct impression of your organisation. Sometimes you'll need to provide information about a student. You might have to refer a student on to access services. So that might be, a mental health service or a medical service. And you'll need to hand over personal information, but you should not hand over personal information unless the student gives permission or the parents give permission, depending on the student's age. It's authorised or required by law, or it meets one of the other exceptions in the Australian privacy principles. You should also ensure, of course, that your organisation has authorised this, that your organisation are fully on board with what you're suggesting. Collaboration is different to networking, because with collaboration, it's not just having a network, it's actually working together with those people. So to better meet the needs of students, boarding staff must collaborate or work together with others to provide the most effective service to meet the needs of the young person. So the boarding staff may not have the full range of skills or training or experience, so they work together with others to provide this. Collaboration can last for a fixed length of time, short length of time, but what they have in common is that it's an exchange or cooperation that benefits the participation. When we work collaboratively, it gives us opportunity to deliver new or improved or integrated services, to make efficiencies or savings, develop stronger, more united voice, to share knowledge and information. Working collaboratively can be working with organisations that deliver services such as a medical centre, counselling service, student tutoring, that sort of thing. Or it could be working with community organisations such as service clubs. So a local school here worked with a service club to send an Indigenous student to America last year. And so they collaborated together to raise money and to make sure that this could happen for the young person. It might be the sharing of facilities like premises or equipment. It might be the sharing of support functions, such as promotion or payroll, something like that, or even fundraising. It might be improved efficiency, such as coordination or joint management. And you can see here that collaboration just works at so many different levels, and it can be a one-off event like working with the Rotary Club to send a young person to America, or it could be a very close collaborative arrangement where you both share the same payroll function, the payroll officer, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different ways that you can collaborate, a lot of different levels. I guess we've got to ask the question, is collaboration always the correct response? And collaboration is not the correct response for every situation, for every organisation. So you need to work out if it's going to provide the right results. You need to ask first, what are you hoping to achieve? Is it the best way to achieve the aim? Will it add value to what we're doing? Will there be measurable benefits to all? Will there be cost savings? Will the result justify the team? The team effort, the time, the money spent, etc. What will you lose by actually working on a collaborative project? Do you risk mission drift? So mission drift is drifting away from your core goals or mission or objectives. will the structure of your organisation be compromised or affected? Will collaboration change your organisation's other relationships with other collaborating people or networks? These are the benefits of collaboration. New services, improved services, wider geographical reach, more integrated, coordinated approaches, financial savings and better use of existing resources, knowledge, good practice and information sharing, sharing the risk in new and untested projects, the capacity to replicate success, stronger, more united voice, better coordination of an organisation's activities, competitive advantage and mutual support between organisations. So they're the benefits. These are the risks. The outcomes do not justify the time and the resources. There's a loss of flexibility in working practice, complexity in decision making, diverting energy and away from core goals, so we call that mission drift, damage or dilution to your brand, damage to organisation and waste of resources if collaboration is unsuccessful, lack of awareness of legal obligations, and sometimes parents and students can be confused. What have we got here? Is it this organisation or that organisation? They can just be confused. Sometimes there can be obstacles to collaboration. There might be personality difference or competition between different individuals or groups, just a lack of information or resources, a resistance to change, a cultural mismatch, a lack of consistency and clarity. We can overcome these obstacles, and by good personal relationships, compatible cultures, written agreements, experiencing change management with leadership and vision, clear and agreed mutual benefits and collaborative advantage, focusing on the big picture, careful planning and good communication process. There are some principles of collaboration, things like transparency, honesty and trust, essential elements. Privacy and confidentiality, participation, it's essential to collaboration. The focus should be on results, not as the collaboration as an end in itself. Consensus or agreement in collaboration is important. The collaboration will need clear goals and objectives, to need to work out who's got the authority to make decisions, and you need to respect the intellectual property rights and copyrights of the participants of the collaboration. All right, so once we've done all that, we need to find the money to make it work, don't we? So the local government has got grants. State and Commonwealth have a broad range of different type of funding available. Check out their website and check out the relevant departments. So if you're looking at disability, for example, you check out the disability websites of state and Commonwealth governments. So local, state and Commonwealth money is generally available. I should say, in saying that, it's often quite difficult to get it. You've got to have a good project. You've got to be very clear about why you should get it. I wouldn't like to have people thinking that this is just very easy, anyone can do it any time. It's not like that. So with your grant submissions, you need to assess your eligibility and likelihood of success first. Check the due date. You don't want to put all the work in to find out that the due date has come and gone. Read the guidelines to assist you. Consider the difficulty of the process for the amount available. So we used to have an agreement at a school that I was at that no one would apply for grants under $2,000 because it was just too difficult to to manage that money, to get all of your accountability audits sometimes are required. For a small amount of money like that, it's just not worth doing. Is it a one-off or recurring grant? You may be able to get it later if the time frame is too tight. So some of these, if they're recurring, you can have another go at getting it later on. Other options for money include philanthropic organisations, and so there's a section on the website on the internet. You can join up to that. I think it costs about $100, and that gives you lots of information about all of the different sorts of philanthropic organisations around Australia. You can directly approach local businesses and organisations, and we've done this many times for different projects, you know, for local charities, for car rallies, for school events, for things like that, just to approach local businesses directly. So that's where we can get the dollars to actually make this happen. Then we need to look at our group processes. We need to learn about the participants, suit the program to their interests and their needs, get them involved and owning the group. That's so important. Have the group planning the meeting, and you can use things like Facebook page or group chats such as WhatsApp. These are very useful for organising, planning, and just maintaining your group processes. So then you need to set the stage, you know, choose a space, good, comfortable, informal space, provide food and drinks break down barriers, have some introductions and some icebreakers. Need to be careful with icebreakers. They can help us by setting the group at ease. We need to engage their interest first before we talk too much. An activity appropriate to their age, ability and characteristics of the group, and don't make them feel uncomfortable or put on the spot. And often I will feel quite uncomfortable around icebreakers that are used with adults when they just seem very childish, and sometimes you look quite foolish when you're participating. We should make sure that doesn't happen. Here's a checklist for icebreakers. Be enthusiastic. Choose volunteers carefully. Don't cause embarrassment. If something's not working, then move on quickly. Timing's important. Keep it short and finish while it's still enjoyable. Try wherever you can to get group ownership, you know, of goals, the name, the music, the moves, the logo, all those sort of things. Get group ownership as much as possible. So with group ownership, this helps us clarify the overall purpose. Don't make decisions yourself that the group could make. Sometimes we need to make decisions ourselves, and we need to go ahead and make those decisions. But if it's something the group can make, then let them make it. There'll be more ownership, more engagement if the group make those decisions. And we should always, understand that our aim might be different to their aim. Be conscious of having small groups. 5 to 10 members is best for discussion. Larger groups, there's less opportunity to participate actively. Smaller groups for less skillful participants or for shorter times. So group size is very important. Just be familiar with purpose and content of discussion. Values and beliefs can affect group dynamic. So, different young people may have completely different values or beliefs, things that are important to them. So we just need to analyse the potential impact and decide on a code of conduct early. We need to address individual needs and interests, provide a wide range of activities to begin with and observe responses, get to know participants, ask what they enjoy, use communication skills that are suited to the age, the skills and the abilities. Avoid conflict by getting to know your team, tackle problems early, define roles and responsibilities, break down barriers, focus on communication and pay attention to detail. And, just promote continued participation, discuss and value equality and diversity, discuss a safe environment, normalise conflict early. So the sort of thing we're saying there is that you might say to your young people that you're working with, look, it's normal. This is normal for people not to agree with these sort of things, It's normal to have a difference of opinion here, okay? It's not normal to be beating each other up over a difference of opinion. That's not normal. So just prevent discrimination, harassment or bullying and discuss cultural needs. These are rules for effective group work. All members of the group should have a chance to speak freely, to finish their thoughts without being interrupted, to hear other people's ideas and feelings, to receive and respond to respectful, honest and constructive feedback, to put forward a variety of points of view, to join in discussion that's not dominated by one person, to argue the content of ideas and opinions. So arguing about the ideas and the opinions, not arguing about or attacking personalities or people. So when you've got this group work happening, people should all have a chance to speak, and what they have to say should be valued. Their contribution should be valued. If conflict threatens, then implement strategies to prevent it as much as you can, in your role. Identify and reinforce the outcomes of positive conflict or positive differences. Clarify and confirm relative principles and practice of conflict resolution. Encourage acknowledgement of respective rights and responsibilities and the perception of all participants within the conflict situation. If conflict arises, act quickly to prevent it escalating. Separate, give them time to cool down, use familiar strategies, acknowledge people's rights. Sometimes you may need to, just disband your group for a period of time. So you might say to your group, look, we're going to leave it now, we're going to finish up now. A couple of people will look into this area of disagreement and we'll get back again tomorrow. So that's quite a good strategy if there is conflict. Afterwards, you might need to offer support for people, debrief people. Some people might be quite upset if, depending on the type of conflict that it is. Use restorative justice. So these are restorative questions. What happened? What were you thinking at the time? Who's been affected? What do you think you can do to make it right? So that's all around group processes. And if you did happen to have conflict, and it's inevitable that there'll be differences in groups. Sometimes you might call that conflict, sometimes you might just see it as a difference of opinion. Then we need to evaluate our activities. So we need to be guided by our objects, the objectives and aims. So we need to check progress against those objectives and aims, and we need to keep the group on track. We need to have methods of feedback, and these need to be consistent with the participant's skill level. So sometimes that might just be smiley faces. So you might just be getting a person to indicate smiley faces. Literacy and numeracy levels and the style of feedback that they would prefer. A lot of young people are going to prefer to just select a smiley face rather than write an essay. Another way of doing this, of course, is to do this in an action type method. So you might have your young people lined up against a wall, and you might say, move over to the left of the room if you really enjoyed this activity, move over to the right if you didn't like it, stay in the middle if you just didn't care one way or the other. And that's an interesting way of getting feedback. You can get verbal feedback from interviews, questionnaires, recording a conversation by phone or face-to-face. Written, so what I mean by recording is taking notes. Probably we wouldn't often record it verbatim. Written, like a questionnaire, a survey, a written complaint form. You can use things like SurveyMonkey or Facebook. We would seek feedback on the style and performance of the leaders, the appropriateness of the processes, the achievements of the group, and positive areas of achievement as well as things that need improving. And then we document it and distribute the data, collate it in a suitable form, analyse what it's telling you so that the positives can be strengthened or we can take action to make changes, and then we end up with this feedback cycle, so that you have this feedback cycle where you're seeking feedback, receiving feedback, analysing it, making decisions, communicating decisions, taking action again, then seeking feedback on that action, and so on and so forth. So that's the end of this unit. It's the end of this part of this unit. Remember that you still have another assessment to do, and that's assessment 15.1, and this is a case study. I think it's quite an interesting case study, and so that is 15.1. Thank you very much.